would be. Dr. Therese Coffey.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And can I first of all start by thanking my honourable friend from Whittam for leading this debate so well, covering a real tour de force. Mr. Howarth, I will bear in mind absolutely your time limit. Honestly, I could take the whole 90 minutes to tell the sad tale. But it's also a pleasure to follow my honourable friend from North West Norfolk, because actually it is the East of England Ambulance Service Trust that is responsible for out-of-hours care in Norfolk. So they should have the left hand talking to the right hand. I also want to say thank you to my honourable friends from North Norfolk and Central Suffolk and North Ipswich. They have been started on this. It was right that as a doctor, my honourable friend would take the lead on these matters in Suffolk, but pushing on, it has been a consistent performance with colleagues right across the different counties of the East of England that really have brought this to the fore today. As I suggest, this is a sad tale that started some time ago. I have been doing timelines at this from the middle of 2011. And what I will say, Mr. Howarth, is what we are driven by is the experiences of our patients. It is those people that have suffered. Now, let's be honest, the vast majority of people in our areas do actually have a good ambulance service. The care, once it arrives, is very good. Nobody's denying that. However, too often, right across the region, what you see is that excellence of service concentrated in certain areas in order to meet the false regional performance target. And almost everything else is put aside and has been put aside so far because it doesn't matter whether in South Norfolk only 50% of people actually get an ambulance within 19 minutes. It doesn't matter as long as the regional target is met, because that's all that matters to the leadership and the board of the East of England. So we've had a long series of meetings, we've had CQC inspections, we've had promises of change, we've had, as I say, not a lack of transparency. They've been dragged kicking and screaming to at least start showing their performance targets in a meaningful way, at least by kind of county, now at CCG level. But that took a long time to do. It was all about, well, you can look in the minutes of your local primary care trust to find the response times. These kind of unacceptable behaviours from the very top to say, well, that's all right, we're hitting our regional target. Now, I just want to say to the Honourable Member for Copeland, I've actually used his constituency, his county, to say if it can happen in Cumbria and Cornwall, it can certainly happen in Norfolk and Suffolk. And I think it's important that the opposition front bench does not try and drag party politics into this today or talk about finances. This is about wrong priorities at the very top and forgetting that every patient matters. And I've never had to call an ambulance in the East of England. I'm not aware I've ever had to call an ambulance at all. But what I would like to think is that if I did, I would have some confidence that the ambulance would arrive there in time. But in reality, there are not enough ambulances, there are not enough staff. Mr. Andrew Morgan recognised that early on when he came into being as the interim chief executive. And frankly, as Dr. Marsh pointed out in his excellent report, the current leadership from the board isn't strong enough to take forward the issue of the organisation. There is a lack of focus and grip, which has contributed towards the deterioration of performance across the trust. Many of the issues that are kind of breaking open at the moment have been in deterioration for some time because we have not seen leadership from the non-executives by actually asking the hard questions, going beneath the surface level, but instead relaxed about just looking at that top target at regional performance. I want to thank our local newspapers, the East Anglian Daily Times and the Eastern Daily Press. I think particularly Nigel Pickover and Terry Hunt have done really good things, keeping up the pressure and standing up for their readers, our constituents, the East of England Ambulance Service Trust patients. And the Harlow Star, apparently. But going back to December 2011, when we'd finally got a meeting with the Health Minister and the range of people around the table who could have fixed these issues, we were promised there would be change. That we were promised that the issues would focus now down more at the county level, that patients mattered, because the postcode data which they had released in November 2011 showed that that had not been the case. We've never been able to get data at that level again, Mr. Howarth, because they simply don't want to share it with us. And frankly, I'm not sure if I should spend all my time doing FOI requests. But one of the things that was agreed at that meeting that was going to happen was that contracts would change. That didn't, and that's one of the reasons we lead to this issue of trust. In October 2012, Hayden Newton resigned. Coincidentally, that was a week after a whole series of complaints, including specifically the case of Norrie Dennington, where they'd gone to the press to try and finally get an answer after 3 months. To be fair to Maria Ball, the former chairman of the trust, she did get answers to those complaints then and there, and as I say, within a week, Hayden Newton had resigned. However, he was still on the payroll till the end of March 2013, and there was this glowing tribute by the chair at the time saying that he would be greatly missed and a hard act to follow. Under his leadership, frontline staff were still being recruited, quality of care had improved, and thanks to the stewardship of Hayden, it was a stable, sustainable and financially sound organisation. Well, I'm afraid the Marsh report blows that out of the water. I could go on about all the different meetings. I won't, Mr. Howarth, because I'm conscious of the time. But what I will say is that patients were not having their complaints answered. They were not being taken as individuals. The staff, the board should have seen from the survey, from the sickness rates climbing. CQC should have done more than just tick the box that they passed their staff compliance on the basis that their appraisals had been done. You know, there was this element of external looking outside as well, that CQC, the Strategic Health Authority at the time, and then to some extent Monitor, which didn't approve the Foundation Trust status application, but also passed them on the rating of governance. All these different regulators need to look at themselves to understand why is it that effectively they let people down, as well as the leadership of the board. The board was fixated on getting Foundation Trust status. It was only focused on the regional target. It didn't matter that residents in Suffolk were being failed, as long as the regional target was okay. So moving forward, my honourable friends who've already spoken are absolutely right that it is imperative that the remaining non-executive directors resign their posts immediately, and that the NHS TDA, the Trust Development Authority, acts on that. The ideal solution for me moving forward would be to ask Dr. Marsh to come in and turn around our ambulance trust, whether that's permanently or on an interim basis, because I do believe he has the skills to make that happen. I do want Dr. Harris to succeed, but it is important that he, as my honourable friend from North West Norfolk referred to, is that we don't rely on this kind of management speak, but recognise that we need to clean the slate. Of course, there are external factors, need to work with GPs, need to work with A&E, but fundamentally, much of the problems are internal. There were not enough training places. There were not enough staff. It is right, by the way, I believe, that Whitehall should not seek to control everything, but it is vital that MPs have confidence that the NHS Trust Development Authority takes this really seriously. I also believe CQC has to be quicker, not to be rash, but again, not to be tick-box driven. They did fail the Ambulance Trust, but more recently, they decided to withdraw from a meeting from MPs to talk about their reaction to the trust plan that was issued in April. Mr. Howarth, as I said, I could have spoken a lot longer. I've spoken longer than you requested, but genuinely, I want to ensure that our patients, our constituents, our residents, rest assured that we will not stop continuing pursuit of excellence for them, wherever they live in our great part of the country, because frankly, they deserve nothing but the best. Again, if we can do it in Cumbria and Cornwall, we can certainly do it Suffolk, Norfolk, Essex, Cambridgeshire. And frankly, until those non-executive directors go, we will not have confidence in the leadership of that trust to make the difference.
Hear, hear, hear.